So, like, if you were in one of the Lightlark factions, which would you be?
Which do I want to be, or which do I think I'd end up with?
Both.
Because for chronological reasons related to how long I've been on this planet, I would not like to be in Starling. I do
That's
vibe
fair.
hard. I do vibe hard with Moonling. But, like, in terms of quality of life, I think I would be best off in Skyling. Because they're the one that objectively doesn't suck.
They're just regular guys. Their curse is to
You
be
just
regular guys.
I understand how going from being able to fly to not being able to fly would be a, like, mass casualty event on day one.
Right,
But
it's been
500 years later,
There's just
they've
a bunch
added
of guys.
ladders.
Welcome back, listeners, to this bonus episode of Analysis Roulette, wherein instead of doing serious analysis of Lightlark, we are going to talk about our feelings.
Just for the benefit of anybody who, for reasons I cannot comprehend, has chosen to listen to this without listening to the accompanying psychoanalytical analysis of Lightlark. That's a very hard phrase to say.
It is.
I'm Dia.
I'm Duck.
We are the hosts of Analysis Roulette, a podcast where usually we spin a wheel to give ourselves a media to talk about and a school of analysis to talk about it with. This week, we simply could not be contained.
We just, in order to perform a serious analysis, we needed to know we're going to have an outlet for all the other things we want to say about this book.
Because this book is a lot.
There's
If you
so
want to hear,
much happening here.
If you want to hear our synopsis of this book, you can go and listen to the episode, but just a very brief introduction for, again, whatever people there are out there clicking on this bonus episode without knowing anything about Lightlark or the podcast. This is a story that was advertised widely, particularly on TikTok, as a high fantasy Hunger Games meets a Court of Thorns and Roses YA with spicy elements, sort of front runner in the thing of other thing and third thing category of literature.
Yes. And I applaud it for having a name that is not a Light of Larks and Ladders.
It would have been Light of Larks and Ladders, though.
No, it wouldn't. You'd have to. That would be centering Azul.
That's true. It would have been. It would have been Queen of Light and Thorns or something, wouldn't it? Queen of Shadows and Thorns.
Yeah. It would not have mentioned the sad gay man in any way. This is a book that went like to an active effort to not mention the sad gay man more than necessary.
The most
like,
demonstrative
literally
thing
put
is
him in for diversity points and then do not use him.
The fact that he is canonically black, and we could not think of a single thing to say about that because it's only mentioned once when it says he has dark shoulders and big eyebrows.
And
eyebrows bigger than his eyes, specifically.
Right, but, like, speaking as a white person, I have seen some very large eyebrows on white men. Like, I got that the eyebrows were bushy. I did not from this interpret that the gentleman was black. I was just like, yes, he has
I don't think that was the clue. I think the fact that he has dark skin was the clue.
But
it says dark shoulders, which isn't a phrase that meant anything to me in a universe where the sky is yolky.
The sun is yolk. I think, to be honest, the reason I missed it is I think that I interpreted that as meaning he has the kind of tan you get by walking around outside without your shirt on a lot.
Yeah, which
like,
seems entirely in character
than the rest of him.
Yeah.
Insofar as
dark shoulders imply less dark non-shoulders.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the light in which I read it, which means I'd fully missed that he's supposed to be the black man. There is a black man.
I only knew he was black
for a scene.
I was only aware that he was black because I was already familiar with the character portraits which Alex Astor has made available along with the book on all of her platforms, which are, to be fair, gorgeously illustrated. I can't recall the artist's name right now, but they are lovely.
I have nothing against there being character portraits and them being,
however,
used as advertising. I feel like, however, you should actually mention this in text if you want.
I have to say also, the character portrait for Azul is very, very funny because I don't have it in
Does
front
he
of me.
have
I
the
don't
eyebrow?
remember the exact phrasing. He doesn't, but they have little blurbs about what the curse is, what their kingdom is, what their magic powers are,
The curse
etc.
that says
And they all have a
regular
little
guy can't
hook.
fly.
It says he's a regular guy who can't fly, and the little hook for him is he seems sort of serene and perfect, but what secrets lie behind his smiling facade? And it's like literally none.
He's just sad. He's not even got a
He's
smiling
just
facade.
sad.
He turns up looking kind of pensive, and then it turns out his big secret is he's sad.
I can't remember the exact phrasing, I'll look it up, but I think by that she meant that he's hot, not that he's actually smiling.
I did get the impression that he was meant to be hot, so, that point was communicated. But everyone in the book is meant to be hot. There are no
I'm
non-hot people
looking
in
up
this
the
book,
Lightlark
including,
character portrait.
all the background characters are also hot.
There's someone who has a slight limp, I think is the closest to physical less than
Right, but it gets
perfection.
fixed.
Yeah, here we go. Azul's description is Azul, ruler of Skyling, a realm of jovial windmasters who were able to fly before their curse bound them to the ground. Everything about Azul is perfect, or so it seems. His glittering smile, a mask. His glimmering jewels, a distraction. What mysteries lie beneath his cleverly crafted facade? None.
That is selling, that is selling him as like another player in the love triangle situation, and it literally is
He's
just
just sad and gay.
sad, gay, hardly ever present as well. It's just feels deliberate.
I will say, his jawline is amazing. The other guys are both sort of generically hot, but in this character portrait, his jawline is fantastic.
Yeah,
That's his
Azul
facade. It's just how good his jawline is.
I mean, we're joking. Well, not necessarily joking. Like we are pointing out that the gay black man is the one who does not, in fact, appear in this book. But I
Yes,
think a
but
large
consider
part of
off
that
screen, he is the one who recognizes and takes out the villain immediately, and then just walks away, tells no one,
tells no one, has no material impact on the
poisons
plot
her
because what they of course they
non-fatally.
do is, well, of course, what they do is cure the non-fatal poisoning and get right back on the stupid prophecy train. But I think I
Literally,
actually
just
have a
like he could have
diagnosis.
just put a post-it on her that says evil, and it would have been
Right.
more helpful to the plot.
Yeah. I mean, the diagnosis for Azul is actually very straightforward, which is that this is not a book that needed 6 factions, it's a book that needed 4.
But one of them has. Okay, Grim was too obviously evil, so there has to be one that's like bitchy, obviously mean evil instead of just
That's
straight up,
Cleo.
I am the Dark Prince. And
Okay.
then there had to be like a dude who wasn't in love with Isla, and the only reason that could happen is for him to be gay, so Azul had to exist.
Yeah, I think it is as straightforward as I wanted Cleo so we could have a fake out villain, which to be honest, Cleo is fairly well written as a fake out villain when actually what is up with Cleo is she just doesn't want
Yeah,
to be here.
she's just
It does
like
not respect 20-year-olds.
mean. She's just
She's
rude.
mean. She's mean, she's fed up, she is not impressed by your antics, and this is enough to make her a plausible villain. Which tells you
Yeah,
again a lot
she's a
about the
bisexual
society being
queen
portrayed.
who has
Um,
only slightly more screen
and
time than Azul.
I think it's honestly as simple as wanting to be able to seat them boy girl boy girl. It's we've got I
Yeah,
need these 2 guys and I need these 3 girls, and that doesn't match up. That's not symmetrical. So there has to be 6 of them because it's a better number than 5 because it means they pair up properly. And then I can do the pairs thing, but I want to make a big thing about who you're paired with, and for that to be true, there needs to be 6 of them. So we need another spare.
it is sort of. It's not fantasy Hunger Games. It is a little bit Love Island.
It's a little bit, yeah. It's
Can I read
very
you
much
another
not
character
Hunger Games.
portrait? They're so good.
Yeah, and I think
The
marketing it
one
as
for
Hunger
Oro.
Games is
Can I read you Oro's character description?
Please
It's so
read me
good.
Oro's bio. I wish to scour
Oro,
my mind.
Oro, ruler of Sunling, a realm famed for their ability to control fire, drawing power from the sun and cursed to never again see the light of day. As the king of Lightlark, his abilities are endless. Trapped in his castle from dawn to dusk, Oro is distant, untrusting, cruel. To break the curses once and for all, he must break every rule. And he looks uncannily like Peter from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie.
Also, none of this is correct.
No, none.
I
Not a
mean,
single bit.
yes, about the castle. He is in the castle during daytime. That part is true. He does not break every
Oh,
rule. I don't think he
he is
breaks really
sometimes
any
in
of
a
the rules.
cave.
He's big on rules. Actually, he's a big rules guy.
He is a rules follower. I guess he's not following the rules in that he and his partner are off doing something useful instead of sitting around the castle doing nothing.
Right, they're supposed to be plotting
Is that
assassinations,
against
but
the
not like
rules?
clearly motivated ones.
Yeah.
He's
I
also
really
not
want to know what
serious
the other
or
two pairs were
interesting.
getting up to.
Maybe I'm showing
No.
my age here, my age being not 20, but he is a boring guy.
He is. He's also not cruel. He's just like
He's
slightly
just
mean, like twice.
right, like the cruelest. I mean, I will say, because the cruelest thing he does is that whole dinner party scene, and I do think executing 4 times as many people as necessary to supply the dietary requirements of his cannibal house guest is a bit cruel. It's
Yeah,
not
she
great
needed one
behavior.
heart. Why are you killing people every day? Even if they're in prison for murder.
Right. Well, I think she gets 1 heart a week while she's staying there. She needs 1 a month.
Yeah. Also,
Like
I have to say,
that's
the
a lot of
fact that he
people.
specifies that the heart has come from a murderer, the fact that he feels the need to say that implies to me that if they are supplying any hearts, they are not necessarily always from murderers, which I don't like. I don't like that at all.
Right. I mean, the best option I can imagine here is they like have a long-term death row situation where they collect condemned criminals for however many necessary years running up to the Centennial so they can feed the wildling attendee,
We're not getting into the
which
death penalty again. We already did this with Batman.
we already cancelled ourselves on the death penalty. And I'm not trying to get into the death penalty. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
is elaborate because there's no good way to
Yeah.
deal
I mean,
with the.
we
We're right. Yeah. Logistically, there is
we
no
have
good
messaging
way.
about the world building for this, and the logistics don't work, but there are ways it could have worked, which are annoying us.
Right. We have this whole theory. Can we talk about the Starling thing? Because I mean, okay, so the
Yes.
wildlings should have just depopulated everyone forever. There's no fixing it. But like the Starling state, right?
Make it one a month. Make it one a year at least. It would still be difficult, but it would be suspension of disbelief difficult, not unhinged difficult to make work.
I mean, even that is a lot.
I
I
think
mean, make
even
it
that you can sort of write off in the back of your head as, oh, that's not that many, even though if you really think about it, it is.
think about it, it's
Whereas
too
one a
many.
month is enough that even if I don't think about it, it still sounds like too many.
Right, that is 12 or 13 people a year, depending on whether we're counting moons or calendars. And that's so many people.
Yeah.
There's no fixing it. You can't well build a way
No.
around it. But the thing about Starling, right, is we have this. We are told that basically the Starling state is literally crumbling into ruins because no one is over the age of 25. And we came up with 2
Oh,
things
before
about
you
this that
do,
are
can I
just.
read you Celeste's bio just before
Oh,
we get into it?
please, yes.
Celeste, ruler of Starling, a realm that manipulates energy from the stars, but not the sun. That's not in it, I'm just adding that. Each subject is cursed to die when they turn 25. The youngest ruler of the smallest realm with the cruelest curse, Celeste must prove her people are worth saving. Her first centennial will be her last, unless she can find a way to win. Now,
It
I
will
know all
still
of this
be
had to be
because
lies
wait,
for
hang
plot
on.
reasons, but even within the lies, it is
This
stupid.
bio suggests that if she wins, she will keep having centennials. It will not be her last if she manages to
Maybe
break
they'll
all the
just like
curses
keep
that are
meeting
the
up on the
reason they are happening.
anniversary.
Right, they'll just have a regular jubilee or something. But
Or like maybe whoever doesn't get cursed can keep trying. It's not implied that they can't.
I guess.
Just like you uncurse yourself and fuck off, and everyone else is like, well, I guess I'll see you in another 100 years. We'll have a go.
Right, you turn back up to maybe get assassinated this time instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, there are no Starlings over the age of 25. And it is implied that everyone else just sort of leaves them to get on with this. But also this has had no material effect on their
Weird.
society apart from to like make a lot of people be dead. And we have a number of
Yeah.
questions here, such as why do
I think it's
Starlings
implied
keep
that their infrastructure is pretty lax.
right, because they keep because there's sort of no experts and not a large working population. But mostly the no
Mm.
experts thing is sort of implied is that nobody ever gets good at stuff because they die too young.
Yeah.
So our questions are: 1, why do the Starlings not regard themselves as like full adults at 14?
We don't know
Just
they
approximately
don't,
speaking.
but it should be implied that they do.
It seems like Celeste
Celeste
doesn't.
shouldn't think of
Celeste
herself as
seems
young.
right. Celeste thinks of herself, or Aurora in disguise portrays herself as Celeste, as thinking of herself as being too young for this, not a proper grown up.
And I mean,
It's
that
like you
could
are one of
be.
you are an elder statesman by the standards of your people.
Yeah, like that could be to manipulate Isla, but it still doesn't totally make sense because if Isla had any brain cells, she would think the same thing we do. It's just that Isla doesn't.
Right, and the implication also is that they've been having like little sleepovers in Aurora's bedroom where she is like sheltered in the same way Isla is?
Well, she has access to a library, which Isla doesn't. But apart from
Right.
that, yeah.
Who
She
exactly are
also
her
isn't
guardians?
popping out babies.
She also isn't popping out babies. She is an old lady who is going to die in the next couple of years. Where are the babies?
What is she, like 19?
She's
She
less
got
than
6
25.
ye's. Yeah, she's got what,
And
like
babies
she has
take
not got
9 months to
long to
make.
have had babies. Yeah, and you can't have an official heir when you go to the Centennial, but it doesn't say you can't have, like, relatives who could conceivably become your heir.
Right. For badly explained magical reasons. But so we have this question, which is, well, the first question was, why do starlings not consider themselves adults at 14? And you know, in a very
I will say the
comfortably
character
unconscious
portrait
why
for
does everyone else
Celeste
think the young way?
definitely looks like she is supposed to be a child posing as an adult. It's very Barbie 12 Dancing Princesses,
Yeah,
stylistically. I like it. I think it looks very nice. But yeah, why would anyone think they were not an adult?
right. And then that led me on to the question of, hang on a minute, why are the starlings an independent state? Why is their civil service and the infrastructure of their state not being helpfully taken over by one of the 5 other factions who don't drop dead at 25 and managed on their behalf in exchange for most of their resources? A thing that would happen in the real world if the population of a given nation always died at 25.
My conspiracy theory answer to this is they don't know how the curses work very well, and there's a chance if you took over Starling, you would then get the Starling curse.
It might be infectious.
Well, like, if you are the ruler of Starling, does that not make you automatically drop dead at 25? Which all the other rulers are older
Well,
than.
I was going to say we have a test case because Azul, in addition to his other minimal character traits, has turned his kingdom into a democracy of which he is merely the titular head, so that when he dies, it'll be fine.
Yeah, because
But
he doesn't
presumably
care.
the prime minister of Skyling can't fly
Well, yeah,
because
but
he's
if you
cursed. But
took
how would we
over.
distinguish this from the prime minister of Skyling can't fly because people can't fly?
This is true.
Like, is this cursed not flying or just regular non-flying?
How do you test that, you know? But yeah, realistically, Starling should not be being left to try and handle infrastructure when everyone is under 25.
Right, someone should be taking this place over. Because I don't know if you know this, but like 24-year-olds who are going to die next year, not the savviest negotiators in regards to the natural resources of their country.
No. I mean, this is the thing, is we know that Celeste is Aurora, has been every single ruler of Starling. And can I just say, I know she's like evil or whatever, but hats off to you pretending to be under 25 for 500 years. Being
Honestly,
under 25 is exhausting.
the part of this I find so implausible it only just occurred to me, as I'd sort of been assuming that Starlings mostly knew they had an immortal ruler and it was like everyone else who was fooled.
It's
Because
very unclear. It's not mentioned how she's pulling off this deception.
right, like every few years resetting yourself to your own younger descendant is exhausting to contemplate.
Like, even if we assume she lives in relative isolation as Isla does, it's still not clear when she announces that there is a new her.
Right, and how that all goes down. But on the other hand, getting to stage your own increasingly dramatic death every few years does sound fun.
It does have fun. You could have a funeral every 25 years for yourself.
Right? You
And
could
the
find
entire kingdom will mourn.
right? You get to go to your own wake. You get to
And you're
think
an
up
absolute
ways to kill
monarch,
yourself.
so you can punish anyone who doesn't look sufficiently unhappy.
Right. And you can just find ways for your curse to find you and die in dramatic and hilarious ways. And no one's
Very
allowed to
unclear how
laugh
they die.
except
Do they
you.
just drop dead of natural causes, or like does a wizard
Unclear.
show up? I like the idea that it's like that one. Is it an H.P. Lovecraft?
Right, with the wizard who's like a curse on your family to die at this age. It's just he turns up and
And
kills them.
it turns out he just shows up and shoots them or whatever.
Right. He has cursed them with eternal vengeance of I'm gonna find you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they break the curse by like arresting him.
Yeah, they just take away the weapon.
So, like, take his gun
It was
away
that
and
easy
suddenly
all
the
along.
curse of bullet. Should we talk about Isla's isolation? Because my God, this woman's upbringing does not
Oh,
make sense.
is this the time to do Isla's character portrayal?
Can we do Isla's character? There's so much to say about Isla's character.
So, should we start with the bio?
Please. What does the book tell us
Quick
about
note,
Isla?
a couple of notes about Isla in this little promo bio. It's cropped like it's for Instagram. I assume that's where it originally was, but it's in any number of places. One, she's the only one with a surname. Her name is Isla Crown.
Stupid surname, by the way.
Two, I don't know if you've seen the illustration, but her boobs are going in completely different directions and it's very distracting.
I have not seen this illustration, but that does sound distracting. Is she wearing a very sexy dress?
She is wearing some red fabric wrapped around herself. And it's wrapped around her boobs, but it's wrapped around each breast separately, so it pulls them in different directions. Like, this isn't
Oh,
a failure of jiggle physics. This is a sartorial choice.
That sounds uncomfortable.
It is held up with a sort of a thorn bramble.
That's
like
not
a
making
twist
it
of
better.
thorns that goes around her chest and down her arms. Nothing is holding it up, so it is supported entirely by her breasts.
That sounds bad. I don't want to wear that.
Yeah. It's like it's a top and bottom piece. She's completely bare from sort of armpit level up. And then there's the thorns are wrapped around her arms down to the wrist and over the chest, and then the fabric sash that is wrapped around her chest is attached to the thorns. And it loops sort of once around one boob, then comes around the back and over the other boob, and then sort of tightens at the bottom in a way I assume means it's tied up. It is the same shade of red as her crown, which is made of flowers and thorns as well. In many ways, Isla is like Jesus Christ with her crown of thorns.
On the one hand, that's very high fashion. I would expect to see this on the catwalk, but on the other hand, that is catwalk couture. That is not clothes.
No. Also, I say this again, the degree of separation implies that this is quite tight, and it looks so uncomfortable. It's so hard to believe that there is an entire society of warrior women running around in this outfit. Anyway, the bio reads, Isla Crown, ruler of Wildling, a realm of temptresses who can control nature and a curse to kill anyone they fall in love with. The Centennial is her only chance to break the curse and save her realm. To survive, she must lie, cheat, and betray, even as love complicates everything. It also shows her using magic powers.
Right, the ones she doesn't have.
She appears to be making a rose blossom into existence. Though to be fair, she does fake that with her blood at one point, but she doesn't seem to be bleeding. Also, I will note again, it's a realm of temptresses. We know there are wildling men. We never hear of one. We never even hear the name of one.
Never meet one. Isla's male parent is not one.
And wildling is consistently referred to as a realm of temptresses, not tempters.
Right. It's always temptresses and seductresses. Also, I do not follow how the temptress thing is supposed to come from the you must kill people you fall in love with.
To be fair, I think the idea is that they already, because they have magically good singing voices, I think the idea is they're supposed to be sort of siren elves who already had a reputation for being horny. And then the eating hearts and killing anyone they fall in love with went from, oh yeah, the sexy wilderness people to the sexy murder wilderness people who will seduce you and eat your heart.
It sort of tries to imply that the reason they're very sexy is because they're using this to catch you so they can eat your heart. But then it also says that they mostly eat the heart of jewel thieves.
The jewel thieves who come to their realm to steal the jewels that bloom up from the ground wherever they walk.
Right, and also they're not like mythical creatures who show up once in 100 years and sing your ship onto the rocks. They're just a whole nation of people who are cannibals. I feel like you're gonna need the weapons more than you need the seductresses sing after the first 5 years.
And yet the jewel thieves apparently have not learned, because Isla implies that is like the number one source of food, which might bring us back to our points about Starling.
Right, which our theory is, okay, so everyone's dropping dead at 25, otherwise healthy people just dropping dead at 25. Just eat the starlings.
Yeah, why have the starlings not got like some kind of arrangement?
Are the wildlings not farming the starlings?
Like, I feel like it's not even that bad a deal, you know? Hey, we will make your country function because we have adults who know stuff, and you will provide us with a steady supply of hearts from young, healthy people.
Right. They would be dead anyway. Crucially, we're not going to kill those people. We're just going to institute some very specific shared funeral arrangements.
Like, we don't sense of whether other wildlings are okay with the heart eating. We see that there's a few who seem to have visibly recently eaten, which implies they're just kind of like Draculaing blood
And
all down their
have not
front.
washed their faces. Like they've eaten messily
Yeah.
and then they have not wiped their mouths.
Which
That's
is
a
weird
very
because when
specific
Isola is
cultural thing.
pretending to be a normal wildling, she cuts a little slice off with a knife.
With a knife and fork.
So, like, it doesn't seem like they are compelled to be bestial. It's just
But some people out there are
so they
eating
seem
hearts like
kind of
apples and not washing their faces.
yeah, they're fine with the heart eating. It's not disturbing or gross to them. It's just that morally they would prefer to have ethically acquired hearts. There is a nation of
Yeah.
people right next to you dropping dead at 25 who could use some help. They need support.
Unfortunately, the wildlings
The
are also
economy is in
incompetent at
shambles.
having a state and at child rearing.
They're so stupid. They're so fucking
We
stupid.
have to talk about. So, honestly, this is one of the places where this book most resembles the Hunger Games. But in that very specific, you read the Hunger Games, and what you took away from it was not what it was saying, because the Hunger Games has a protagonist who is unexpectedly good at one specific martial art, which is archery, for the very practical reason of you either go out there and learn to shoot rabbits or you starve to death.
Yeah.
She is notably not good at like combat in general. Her only martial skill is she's good with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, like, she has enough physical strength that she is not, like, the easiest target around.
Sure, she's a fit, strong, healthy 16-year-old with one combat
Yeah.
skill. This puts her in a better position than like a 12-year-old with none.
Yeah.
But a number of
Isola,
people,
however.
right? A number of people read the Hunger Games and were like, "Katniss is so cool." The new model for YA protagonist is all the combat skills at a very young age, super soldier.
Or inexplicable combat skills from the minute they start being taught them.
Oh, people were very fond of the no, I didn't learn this painfully over several years of living on dandelions. No. Somebody once handed me a knife and I was like, I'm so good at this. And then I was.
Well, what usually happens is they hand them a knife and they suck at it and someone goes, "Did you think it was going to be easy?" And then they practice for 2 days and they're a master.
Right, because
Looking
then
at you,
they've earned it.
Divergent.
Such as,
Yes.
Isola, who almost irrelevantly, there is one staged duel she's in, and then there's a knife fight she loses.
Yeah.
But she is just the best at fighting. She has been trained. She is an elite of wildling culture. She is the finest pinnacle product of their martial prowess. And we get so many flashbacks to this supposed training regime, and it is all batshit stupid.
The bit that seems like it is pointed and useful, even though I think it's stupid in general, is that she is repeatedly trained to experience various forms of pain without responding.
Right.
This is the only bit of training that comes in useful to her at any point.
They traumatized her out of flinching, which
Yes, she
I
can
don't
cut her
quite
hand
understand
open
why.
or stick it into a fire.
Yeah. It's not clear why
Without
this was a
showing pain.
priority, because you may be aware of this, dear listener, but the ability to function in stressful situations is not closely related to the ability to, like, hold your facial expressions still through pain. They're not the same thing.
Especially pain that you knew was coming. Which every time it is pain that she knows is coming. And to be honest, she
Right.
functions very badly under stress.
She does. Because she is also deeply sheltered. Because she's not cursed, you see,
Yeah.
so they can't let her go out. Given that wildling curses are not protective in any way, I do not understand how being not cursed meant she couldn't go out.
Well, she also doesn't have magic powers to
Yeah,
make
she can't
thorns
control
grow.
the nature around her, but, like, you can make a story for that. You can make a rule. You can have a vow of silence situation. Or, magic equivalent thereof. What I'm saying is you could do something other than shut her up in, like, a semi derelict wing of
A
a
painted
greenhouse
over
palace.
greenhouse.
Painted over greenhouse.
Painted over the windows
With cracked
to make it
panes.
more tortury.
Right. There's no good reason to do this. It's like so no one can see in. And I'm like, well, put her in a regular room then. With walls. No, they put her in a painted over
She has an
greenhouse.
open window and they close it because she's not allowed an open window. And it's just like, what is that helping?
It's a child torture situation, but also they're teaching her to be an elite warrior. But their methods are not like having swording lessons. Oh no, 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 no. They do things like take her out in the wilderness and dump her there.
And she makes herself a bow and arrows.
She says it took me 3 days to get back, and in that time she made herself a bow and arrow and lived on the things she was shooting because she is Katniss. She was
We
also
had to
so
make
sick.
sure you knew that
She
she was
also apparently
Katniss.
was so sick when she made it back that she was sick 4 weeks. If you have been in the woods for 3 days and then you are sick 4 weeks, I fear you may have sepsis.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
that's a blood poisoning situation. You are girl, between that and retching blood, I think you might not be well.
I mean, the longest I've ever been running around the woods with no adult supervision as a child was about 14 hours. But
Right.
I can't
I've never
imagine that doing
personally
that
been
3
dumped in the woods
times
for 3 days.
over would be, like, 4 weeks worth of illness.
Right. Also, you did not make a bow and arrow and would not have had you taken 3 days to make it home.
No,
Because
because I
that
was
is
6.
and also because making a bow you may not know this, but making a bow and arrow, even a crude bow and arrow, takes more than 3 days during which you are also hiking.
Just hiking along, whittling up my little bow and
Whittling a
arrow.
bow.
It couldn't have been a
A stick I
slingshot,
found on the floor. I mean, this
because
is how I
slingshots
thought.
aren't sexy.
Right, honestly, this is how I thought making a bow and arrow would work when I was 8 years old. I was like, you pick up a stick that's like sort of bow shaped, and then you put a string on it, and that's a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I think I
But I
made
was
little
8,
crude
and
bow
also
and
I was
arrows out of
wrong.
sticks. Out of
Right,
strings and elastic bands to throw other sticks at my friends with slightly higher velocity than I could do with my hands. Is that
right,
what she did? Did she
absolutely.
just make a stick thrower?
Right, I used to, the rubber band on a stick of suitable length is a classic. It is also not how a bow works, uh, and also not good for hunting food.
I think
And
that is
also,
actually what she had.
at the point where we were doing that, we were 8. She's implied to have
Yeah,
been at least a teenager.
yeah.
She really thought she made a bow and arrow. But also, whose training method is this? How is this making her better at what we see her actually do, which is a
This
formal
is
duel
like
and a knife fight?
the final exam at the Red Room in Black Widow is just like, yeah,
Right!
that'll teach you things. So no. The point of that was that it was like dehumanizing and testing that their training had made them survival and killing machines loyal only to Mother Russia. It wasn't supposed to teach them anything.
Right, dump them 3 days away in the woods and make them hike back. Like, isn't a pedagogical method. It might be a not very smart final test situation, but it's not how you teach someone anything. But we never see anyone actually teach her anything. We do see them hang her off a tree until her arms dislocate.
Told her she could go on a tour of her own kingdom if she did it, and then they didn't let her do it anyway.
Because she made too much of a fuss, like a big baby, about being hung from a tree till her arms dislocated.
It's also, you know how you get stronger arms by dislocating them?
I do, right. I mean, my medical experience is that when you have severely damaged your joints, this is good for them.
Yeah, this is exactly what you're supposed to do with joints, is rip them out of their sockets. That's how you become the goodest at swords.
Right. I'm also unconvinced that hanging statically will dislocate your shoulders.
I couldn't quite work out the mechanics of this, because it feels like the shoulders would not be the first thing to go. Like, I don't find it unbelievable that being suspended by your shoulders would cause damage to them.
No,
But
it
if
will
you're
cause
holding
damage
on,
to them, but it won't dislocate them because what will
yeah,
actually happen is your circulation to your hands will give out and your grip will weaken and you will fall.
exactly. Like, I can't, like, it's not, even if you're not attached to the branch in any way, your hands are gonna go first. Hands are more delicate than shoulders, and they're further away from your heart.
Right.
This has been Dia's medical expertise.
What we're saying is that these are the examples we are given of Isla's, careful and stringent preparation for being a warrior temptress. Is they make her dress in skimpy
Also
clothes
love,
she doesn't like and go hiking,
it's
non-consensual
implied
hiking.
that they have a sort of very, very detailed, meticulous plan for seducing Oro. That
Right,
Isla
but
knows
we don't hear
absolutely
about it.
fuck all about talking to men or fucking them. Despite the
Right,
fact that she's been having sex with Grim for a year, but she doesn't remember that.
the really notable thing to me is not that she doesn't know how to have sex, because fair enough. That's honestly not very relevant to the whole seduction thing. But she has no company manners. Like, it's not just that she has
And
decided
she
not to
doesn't.
pursue the plot of seducing Oro that she's been given, but she doesn't know how to talk to anyone These are the
doesn't have to
first
talk to
strangers she's
anyone.
ever spoken to, and she doesn't know what to do.
But also, like, it doesn't. I mean, okay, she could just not be thinking about it because she's chosen not to go with that script. But it doesn't seem like they had any plan for seducing Oro apart from be vaguely sexy near him. And it
Now,
is
to be
stated
fair,
explicitly
that was
that the
also
one.
Aurora's plan, and it worked.
That it has explicitly been stated that wildling rulers have been trying to seduce him at every centennial.
This has been everyone's plan since forever because they have two things, and it's being sexy and eating hearts.
Like,
And therefore, they have tried the being sexy maneuver over and over. It has never previously worked, but hey, we put this traumatized youngster in his presence and he will fall for her.
see, maybe
Which,
that is a
again,
brilliant
does
plan.
work.
Maybe
Does
in
work.
sending people who do actually know how to seduce, and they're like, what if he has a thing for traumatized children? And they're fucking right.
Right! I think that must be it, because also that's Aurora's plan, and also it fully works.
Like, they just know somehow that Oro has a real kink for traumatized children.
I've got this guy's vibe.
You
and
know what? They've
his
been sending a
vibe is-
different kind of vibe of wildling temperatures every year. They're like, okay, what about a competent adult? What about someone who shares your interests? What about somebody who's just really into you and comes onto you explicitly? What about a
None of those
traumatized
work.
child?
Now we're going with heavily scarred Lolita, the latest fashion craze. She's not scarred because they have magic potions.
That prevents scarring. This is very important to mention.
But
It's
also
also
do not
important to
regenerate.
mention that the wildlings have tan skin, except for Iceland, because she has been kept inside all of her life.
Right. And I mean, yeah.
I'll say, I don't mean this, I don't know how to phrase this without it being mean. And obviously, like, I'm not like Spanish, I'm not Hispanic, I'm not Latina. But I have to say, there is something very, very weird about how much of the like promo stuff mentioned, oh, Alexaster includes a lot of sort of Latin elements and Spanish language elements because that's her culture. And then you read the book and the elements in question are like the word Oro is used.
Right.
It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. Like, you don't have to include that. It just feels weird that it was so heavily promoted, along with a lot of other things that were heavily promoted.
As with the Azul thing, it's not so much that this book is unusually racist. It's that this book did an unusual amount of promotion about how diverse it was, and then it wasn't.
And like, it is an extension of the like. This is the thing is, I did say when we were planning this bonus episode, I wanted to talk about the things I liked because there are things in this book I really like, and there are things,
Right.
and there are
I-
more things in this book that I would have really liked if I was like closer to the age I was when this was the kind of book I read. But on a really fundamental level, I do agree that it was falsely advertised, and if I had picked up this book based on that advertising, I would have felt really betrayed. In a way, I would have gone on much the same journey as Isla does.
If I'd expected actual Hunger Games, I would not have found it. If I'd expected actual court intrigue, I would not have found it. If I'd expected a plot that made sense, I would not have found it.
Yeah, and like,
If I'd expected the gay black man to feature in the book in any way, I would have been disappointed. Fortunately, I did not
exactly,
go
yeah.
in knowing that I should expect him to do things. Therefore, I was just toward the end of the book going, "Is Azul just not in this? This is very funny
Yeah.
because he is just not in this."
This is the thing. Before we get on to the topic of things we like, can I do another character bio? Because we've got 2 left,
Yes.
and I'm enjoying them so much. I want to highlight, before I get into Grimm's character bio, 1, he is
Oh, I'm
known by
looking
his
forward to Grimm's
nickname,
character
Grimm.
bio. Right, which is short for
2,
Grimshaw, which I think is a town in the north of England.
it is, I think. 2,
Which really spoils the bad boy vibe.
I don't know why, the character design looks like Hawkeye's uniform from the first Avengers movie, so there's that, except with armor over it. And his crown is made of like shards, which sort of implies they're like clipped in place with little hair clips, which I love.
Oh, I'm looking at him. He's such an anime boy.
Yeah, there's a slant of light directly over his eyes, which I have to assume is about to kill him because he can't go out in the sun.
He can't go out in the dark.
Yes, we have Grimm, ruler of Nightshade, a realm of shadow that draws power from darkness, cursed to live during the day and never again feel the energy of night. Rumours Grimm's
Capitalism.
abilities abound. The power to disappear, to move through walls, to spin nightmares and curses. This Sentinel is the first Nightshade has been invited to join, and all targets are on Grimm. No one targets Grimm at any point.
Not at any point.
That does not happen.
They do all assume that he is evil and constantly plotting war, which it turns out is true, but nobody seems to mind.
It's just such a weird choice. Like, I'll read the last one because we're getting to the false advertising section of our conversation. So I'll just read the last few. Cleo, can I just point out, first things first, I do feel like I would be remiss if I did not mention this. Cleo has very equally weird character design to everyone else, but I have to draw attention to the fact that she has an illusion neckline. Like, when I don't know how much listeners at home will care what an illusion neckline is. When when you have like a sort of low cut or like sweetheart kind of dress, and then there's a mesh panel and some kind of jewelry or embroidery at the top that make it look like they're two separate pieces, and you have like vines trailing or jewelry at the top, and then like a very low cut dress that isn't part of the whole thing.
Right, but actually,
You've seen them on like figure
helps.
skaters and
Right,
brides.
yeah, figure skaters do this a lot, where they have what's actually a leotard that looks like it's a little corset dress.
Yeah.
Because the
It
top
also
half
helps
is
if you want
skin
to
color.
look like, you see it a lot with sort of ethereal style dresses that want it to look like there's magical sparkle or flowers just clinging to
Right,
your
or
skin.
nothing holding this thing up.
Yeah, it makes things look quite ethereal and majestic. Cleo has
She also
one
has,
that is
I'm
holding
looking at
up
her art, she's
the
got an amazingly.
ugliest necklace
It is, but I'm just
that
really
does not
admiring her
match the rest
skirt.
of her outfit. I know, I
She's
want
got
her
an
dress.
incredibly gauzy white skirt over this like white satin
It's so
sheath
pretty.
underskirt. It's a great look.
Though I will say, in the text, she is described as being covered collarbone to ankle in a cape.
She is not currently wearing her cape, I assume.
Yes, she is decaped. Anyway, Cleo, ruler of Moonling, a realm of water masters that can control the sea and are cursed to drown in droves each time the moon is full. But the Moonlings have not been weakened. Their curse affects them the least of all the realms. The Skylings cannot fly!
Unlike everyone
cunning.
else who can't fly.
Cold and cunning. If Cleo can't make allies during the centennial, she'll gladly make enemies. Well, that part is true, to be fair.
That's true, but mostly because she thinks all this is a waste of time. She literally didn't come to the last one.
Literally, like, Cleo is just bored and hates everyone.
She's like, I have come to this 100-day diplomatic summit at which we have never achieved anything and never will, but seriously, I'm not having fun, and I hate you all.
Cleo is just a member of European Parliament representing Iceland.
Cleo is listening with like half an ear to the simultaneous translation and actually thinking about how she is like missing her favorite karaoke bar.
Yeah. So now that I've read you all of the character bios, and bear in mind this is just the character bios, it's one element of the general promotion of the book. Does it seem a little odd to you that every single one of them that I have read out, we have immediately noticed something that is fucking not in this book?
In all of them,
Including
we've got
Azul.
not here. Right, Azul himself, not really here. But yeah, all of these are just advertising the thing that the book. I think this is the thing, is I think Alex Astor set out to write the book that these bios claim.
Yeah.
But that's not the book that actually made it to
The
publication.
thing is, she wrote this book, according to her, I don't know if this is verified in any way, but according to Alex Astor, she wrote this about 11 years ago, published it about a year ago. And look, a lot can change in 10 years, but this does not feel like a book that had extensive revisions.
No. Sorry, my mouth is full of tea leaves. Because I'm going to mention, actually, because I think this is entertainingly psychoanalytically relevant, that this evening I have been drinking a tea called Black Rhino.
Very fun.
It's real nice, actually. It's just pure Kenya.
I do like that. But yeah, no. And like other elements that were like, there were a lot of trope-based marketing things, which said things like sort of bad guy gets the girl. I can't remember the exact trope she used, but they were in the vein of death games, bad guy gets the girl, love triangle.
Love triangle, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that's just very, very interesting to me is a lot of them are arguable. Not true, but like only tangentially true. Like, they're the kind of things that if you're on TV tropes show up in the Your Mileage May Vary page with a lot of, like, under comments.
Right, where it's like, you could argue this applies, but, like, it's not really big.
Yeah, like, even the love triangle, like, I went in knowing there was a love triangle and how it worked and which characters they were in. I was still surprised when it happened, because I expected it to happen on screen.
Right, the love triangle isn't there. I mean, there's a mutual relationship between Grimm and Isla for like most of the book, and then in the last 3 chapters, we have wait, Oro's been in love with you all the time. You find this out at the moment you find out you have his powers because he's so in love with you. And then there's like 10 minutes worth of showdown, during which time she also goes and changes clothes. And then she discovers that she's in love with Oro because he can use her powers after all.
Yeah, Iceland is not
At no point does she
emotionally
have like a
intelligent,
feelings
and this is like
revelation.
very
She
much
never
justified.
She never has a feelings revelation. She never
No.
goes, "Oh, I like Oro." It's just like, "Oh, my magic has chosen Oro. I must
And
be in
this is
love
the
with him."
thing, like, it
There
is
was
very
previous to this no
believable that,
triangle. He was just a guy you didn't like.
like, villain gets the girl is one of the tropes referenced in this book, and he straight up doesn't.
He does not get the girl. He
There is
loses
a
the girl.
villain
He starts
guy.
off having had the girl, and then by the end, he does not have the
He
girl.
has exorcised the girl from this relationship. Like, he's the one that removed her. He got her,
Right.
and then he
Villain
raped her
breaks up
brain.
with the girl.
Like, he is her ex-boyfriend, and he did the dumping. He did not get the
Right.
girl.
Villain dumps the girl is a much more interesting trope, honestly.
I mean, two equally unpleasant, brooding men like the girl is not the same thing as villain gets the girl.
Also, not the same thing as a love triangle. Although, to be fair, I
Oh.
think a lot of people make that mistake of like.
Though I think, like, it is very believable to me that
Liking
Isla
that
is incompetent at identifying her own feelings and those of others because she was raised in, like, weird torture greenhouse.
She was raised in a blacked out greenhouse. Her education was one book at a time from the library. No formal education in anything in the books. Just you were allowed to read a book.
Yeah.
Interspersed with bouts of physical torture that are supposedly somehow combat training. And then they sent her to the most important political summit in 100 years with a plan to seduce the immortal king. Sure, Isa doesn't have a clue what's going on in her heart or her head, and honestly, the most believable thing she does is for like a period of a couple of weeks, goes and just hides out in the ruins with the one servant that was assigned to her, like bringing her porridge. And honestly, in her situation, I think she is entitled to do that.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, like I said, like, okay, it's now a good time to bring in the stuff we did like, because we did say we would do it. It's only fair.
We had to, because we need to talk about how incredibly funny Grimm is at all times.
Grimm is so funny. I'm not sure it's always on purpose, but it is very funny.
And at least sometimes it is on purpose, because his whole we have a challenge to compare the things of value our realm produce, and everyone else is like, here are our healing potions, and we have invented the telephone. And Grimm walks out and he's like, we produce nothing of value, and walks off stage.
So
That is funny on purpose. Grimm is
funny
trying
on
to be funny.
purpose.
Alex Astor is trying to be funny. They are both succeeding. It is funny.
It's so funny. He writes Isla a note with a knife instead of a pen at one point. Like, you have eyelash curlers in this universe, but not pens. It's very, very funny.
He can fly and teleport, and even so, he just sort of broods in corners.
He's literally just here to watch his girlfriend get off with someone else.
He has got some kind of voyeurism thing going on, because he is like flirting with her really heavily, but then pulling back to push her towards Oro, but not in a very effective way, literally just to make sure she spends time with him. But then coming back, and his pattern of like, I think Grimm is enjoying watching his girlfriend with Oro a little too much, is what I'm saying.
If he resolves this love triangle with like a voyeuristic polyamory situation in the next book, I will forgive a lot of the things I didn't like about this one.
You're hoping it goes to threesomes?
Yes, I think it would be very funny.
I mean, 6 does divide very neatly into 2 threesomes.
Yes, but one of them is Azul, who is absent and also gay.
It's true. And might be dead.
Really unclear. I have no idea what happened to him.
At the end of the book, he walks off into a magical storm, and I think he dies, but like everyone is like, oh, he died with a smile, as if he had seen his beloved for one last time.
Did he die? Oh my god, I missed him die. I thought he just disappeared in the storm.
He might just have walked into a storm and not been seen again.
I thought he just wandered off, yeah. It would not be out of character. But yes, no. Other things, we both said there was a lot of descriptive stuff we did like, while there are some very interesting descriptive choices.
I don't think Azul is dead. I think we never get an update on his fate. He watches as the storm goes away. He might have seen his husband for one last time. And then we do not know where he went or what he did with this.
Yeah, I thought he had just wandered off, honestly.
He appears to have just wandered off.
Icon! I love him. I made a little list of my suggestions if I were in charge of this book. Number one was actually we'll get to number one later. Number two was hire an editor. Number three was more Azel.
That would also hire Azel as your editor, how that would work, but like I feel like he's the man who would have ideas about literature.
But yeah,
I
no,
feel free to project this onto him because he is not present and has no character.
But yes, there are some really nice descriptive passages. There are some really fun descriptive passages. They're just genuinely well written and good.
Yeah, we were noticing when we were talking about the description that there's not a lot of description. There's a lot happening in this book for the length of this book, and part of the reason is we don't get a lot of time spent on sort of appearances of things. So people's faces, people's clothes, we don't get a lot of. Where we do get description, it's mostly of place, but some of the place descriptions are really nice.
Yeah, and I will say I did again. I mentioned this in the main episode, but I actually looked up reviews of this because I was like, this clearly appeals to some people. Let's see why. And a lot of it was very much in the vein of like, I just like books that are unpredictable, which I think is fair. I enjoy
Yes,
things that are weird.
yeah.
A lot of people in the negative reviews were dunking on Asta's weird descriptions, and while some of them I do think that is valid because some of them made me laugh.
Yeah.
I particularly liked Lightlark was a shining cliffy thing, and the sun was a yoki thing. Those are both great.
The sun is described as yoki twice. I swear they have been put in specifically to set up the revelation that the heart
Yeah.
is an egg, like
But
the
there
sun.
are a couple of like ones that I saw being laughed at. Like at one point, Isla describes herself having a stripe of chill where a hot guy has touched her, or like the sea banging against the cliff. I'm like, it's not that. It's fine. It's not mockable. It's not like the greatest description I have ever read in my life, but it's not bad. I do think people were dunking unnecessarily on some of the descriptions, which were perfectly serviceable, and some of them are really good.
Yeah.
But a couple of them are quite funny.
A couple of them are quite funny.
The sun is an egg.
The sun is an egg.
The moon is also an egg. Because the sky is an egg.
We are within the eggshell of the sky.
Everything is an egg.
I'm an egg and you're an egg. Isla is an egg. She lives in a greenhouse. but a blackout painted greenhouse.
Yes. So I genuinely think like if you really like being surprised by books, if you're here for the descriptive passages, if you like these kinds of sort of tropey ancient princes warring over the ingenue main character, I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with that. Like I like objectively worse novels than this.
Yeah. It's, so what it really resembles is like the structural difficulties that it has. Yeah, in terms of sort of the amount of time that is spent on what turns out is actually the plot versus the amount of time that is spent on side quests that can't go anywhere because the plot is for them not to work.
I think
So
the sticking,
they're kind of killing time.
like
But the
the
amount
only
of time,
thing,
so that kind of structural issue
yeah,
feels to me like when I try to do NaNoWriMo and I don't have a plot planned out. Like it's the start writing and then never go back and fix anything and just barrel toward the finish kind of structural difficulty.
yeah, like if it does feel like to me, it does feel like it needed more editing, and I do find it wild that this was written in like over 10 years. Well,
Yeah.
I do find it does feel weird to me because it from the character bios and some of the promos being so different to the final product, there is a part of me that is like, this feels like it was rewritten and you never went back and revisited your original concept to see what had changed when you were advertising it. And a lot of the passages that were promoted on social media are different to the ones that appear in the final novel. But at the same time, the final novel so does not feel like it was rewritten extensively.
No, I mean, the bios feel to me like they're what you write when you don't really have a well laid out plan for what's going to happen in this book, but you have some ideas and some aesthetics, and you're doing it's when they feel like the biographies you write of the character before you write the book as references for yourself of who these characters are, and then you don't revisit them. You just put them in the marketing and don't notice that actually the book you wrote isn't the one that you were planning on when you first wrote those bios.
I genuinely don't think this is a published first draft. I think it's that Alex Aster's writing style favours a lot of very sudden twists and turns that makes it hard to do structural edits on.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't want to say that that shouldn't be the case, because clearly people like the twists and turns and the changing and the way that the carpet keeps yanked out from under you at several points. But at the same time, it makes it read to me like she just needed an editor to tie her to a chair.
Yes, I think without sacrificing
Just
all
stop
of the
adding twists. Do a next second draft.
Right. This is the thing. I think there's even. I don't think you needed to lose all the twisty turniness, and I don't even think that you needed to like force it. Like even the ones that are only there for the sake of being twisty and turny, I think you could have left in. But there needed to be an editor. This book could have stood to be longer.
Yeah.
Not that it's too short, but you could have added 5% of foreshadowing sprinkled through the book and still had a reasonable length of book
Yeah.
that
You could
would
also
have
have
been
had.
much more grounded in its own story.
I think also if a story is this centered on betrayals, we should have more time to care about the relationships these characters have, because
Yeah.
I laughed out loud when I got to the betrayals because it's so out of nowhere.
Right. This is the
It's
thing.
just
The
like,
whole book kind of
surprise! I am secretly your boyfriend and also secretly the villain. It's like, whoa, whoa,
right,
whoa,
and
whoa,
even the central
roll it back.
betrayal of Celeste turns out to be Aurora would hit a lot better if we had more of their friendship than like a flashback to a sleepover and a couple of worried conversations in corners during the Centennial. They spent hardly any time together during the Centennial. It's not that I don't believe their friendship. I just don't
But it's
care
well
very much about
written.
it
There's
because
just
I
not
haven't
enough
seen
of
it
it.
happen. Right, exactly.
But
I needed to see more of it in order to care about Celeste as more than Isla's friend, who I am aware of. Like it needs to hit. It doesn't hit that Celeste isn't a real person. It only hits that Celeste has been lying to Isla. I think it would
mind
be
that
stronger if Celeste was a person who I cared about, who then turns out to be fake.
exactly. Like, I don't really mind that you can see most of the betrayals coming. I know not everyone said they could. I think to me it was more just because I had been spoiled for it. Like, I don't know if I would have gotten that first read round. It feels to me like it seems obvious that everyone is going to betray her because that's the kind of book it is.
Mm.
But like, I think the betrayals would have hit harder if we'd been given reasons to care about these people's relationships, which we just weren't. We're given, like, when I was first told the plot of this, I was like, yeah, it sounds like Celeste slash Aurora has a pretty good reason actually to do anything and everything to win this game.
Because she's gonna die in like
Like, I know she's
3
not going to
years if she
die,
just wins.
but I know she's not going to
People can
die because
die.
she's immortal.
She's got objectively absolutely the worst curse.
But like, she has an entire kingdom to run where everyone dies at 25. It's not made
Right.
clear at any point that she's a complete monster who doesn't give a shit.
Right. Like even in her true self as Aurora, who is not personally subject to the curse, that seems like something you'd want to break.
If not else, it's got to be inconvenient.
Your prime minister can never be older than 25. That's a problem.
Like, also, imagine being the only adult in the entire kingdom.
Right. I mean, just having to be an autocratic ruler
Like, even
of a
just
nation of
socially.
children and teenagers.
Even just, like, socially. Like,
Who are you going to hang
imagine
out
being
with?
500 years old and the only people you can ever spend time with are all under 25.
Just you are the weird old person at the university parties forever.
Yeah. It just sounds horrendous.
It's not good. Like she deserves to like she objectively has the worst curse, even if she were not accidentally responsible for them. Like she has reason to resent people who are like, "Ah, I am so cursed. I can only go outside during the day and I can't fly." She's like, "Everyone I know will drop dead on their 25th birthday, so I don't care about your ladders."
Yeah, it's a lot, man. And this leads us. Can I just loop back to? I mentioned that I had a little list of things I would like to fix about this novel.
Mhm.
Can I say my number one thing I would do to change this
Please
novel
tell me
if
your
I
number
were
one thing.
permitted to be the editor? Make Isla actually be a heart-eating wildling.
Right. It actually makes everything less impactful that she is not
There's no.
what she appears. There's no
The only
benefit.
thing her not being cursed does is make her not realize that she doesn't have magic powers. And it's like, why would that work like that? Surely she could just not realize anyway.
Yeah. Or, the thing about I don't think it's necessary to the impact of the betrayals that she is not aware until that moment that Oro loves her.
Yeah,
So her having access to his powers because he loves her can be something that happened 2 days ago that she's just not figured out any
I
way
think
to,
the
like
idea is that it's
she's
supposed to
not
stop
figured out
her
any
from
way to,
realizing.
exploit it yet. and then
I
everything
think the
plays in
issue
back.
is that it's meant to stop her from realizing that Grimm is in love with her because they've been dating for a year as well. But like, I think if you had your memories of that wiped, it might take you a while to realize that you have nightshade powers, and that would be a really cool moment if she suddenly does nightshade shit and goes, "Wait, what? I've barely spoken to him.
Right, how can he love me?
How can this possibly have happened?" That would be way cooler intrigue than him just
And then
taking her on
come
a
to terms
chocolate
with,
date.
but also, how can he love me? Ah, because I am, in fact, a wildling, and it is the nature of my curse that I am
Exactly.
a seductress. So of course, this is how it would go down. Of course, I would accidentally come to dinner in my sluttiest dress, and both of them would just fall in love with me like that.
It would make so much more sense. It would be so much better.
It's not good when you look at a book and you say, "Well, this would be better without the hook."
Yeah. It would. I just feel like it would be a vast improvement. And also, looping back to our Starling should be supplying the hearts to Wildling, it would make
Uh-huh.
the Celeste Isla relationship so much meatier if Isla was actively planning to eat Celeste's heart if this plan didn't work out.
Right.
Because you can't give royalties hearts to just anyone.
Right, exactly, and obviously you can't waste it. And I would really enjoy the bisexual tension of the as a wildling, I have to murder anyone I fall in love with. I'm not obliged to eat their heart. I just do that because why waste food? But I have
Yeah.
to murder anyone I fall in love with. And when you add that to the mix of like your first real friend and like your secret best friend, and you're having these sleepovers, and the tension it introduces to be like, am I actually falling in love with my friend? Because if I am, I have to kill her. But also, I might have to kill her anyway. So does it really matter if I am? But maybe I am.
And that thing is
We
like
have none
it
of
would
that. It's not there.
the like reveal that she would be an actual the reveal with Celeste, the fact that she kills her, if she was an actual wildling temptress who eats hearts, the fact that she kills Celeste at the end would be so
Would
much
be the
sadder.
proof that she was in love with her.
Exactly, it would be tragic. She'd never know though, because she had to kill her for plot reasons.
Right. She had to kill her to save the world, but also did I did I did I kill her because I had to, or did I kill her because it was my fate to do so because I loved her?
And it would make the future love triangle so much more engaging if like
Right. Now I
we
don't have to murder either of you. This is weird.
she's gone from like these two guys who are in love with me because of my wildling temptress ways and I will have to kill them if I fall in love with them to, well, I've already killed someone I'm in love with and now I don't have to do that and I've never experienced emotion without that
I have never
weighing over me.
Right, I have literally never contemplated a relationship that does not end quickly and tragically. I am suddenly having to come to terms with the idea of being with someone for like multiple years. Not even grappling with the whole immortality thing, like more than months. What do you do after the first couple of months if you don't murder them? What's a relationship?
It would be so good and like it would also make Oro and Grimm more interesting. Like what kind of human you have to be to get into a love triangle where the prize is a wildling who will kill you and eat your heart.
Right. Does it, especially when you are an immortal being, is this in fact just the death drive? Is this just suicidality through, but your chosen method is 20-year-old temptress?
Well, I'm just going to go out having a good time.
Right. but crucially, I think if that's your attitude, I feel like what you're trying to do is go out.
Yeah. It would be so much better without the hook.
Honestly, everything we've been talking about, all of this analysis we've been doing, I think loops us back to what for me is the best feature of this book, which is that it does provoke you to write.
I want to go and write so much
Right.
Lightlark fanfiction.
This is an extremely fertile ground for fanfic. There are going to be so many people who write their first stories because they are fixing Lightlark. It's
Just throw
providing
in
a
one more
public
thing that bothers me
service.
about Lightlark.
Just one?
If you're going to have a mystical item called the heart that everybody is after,
Oh god, that's
why are there two separate thematic elements about hearts, the heart eating and Grim calling Isla heart, that are literally never connected to it even as a red herring? This should be a central theme. Hire a
well,
fucking editor, Alex!
and you could have tied this together so much and made this about hearts. But no, it's about twists.
could have been
And
a
sexy
really
dresses.
cool thematic. This is the thing. It's like when I say this could have been, I mean that literally. Somewhere in this, there is a really cool book.
Yes, like not in someone else's hands. A different book could have been written with this premise, but this book could have been good.
Like this has the bones of a really interesting theme. It has the core structure of a really good novel. I just feel like it rattles from bit to bit in a way that is just less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I have to agree.
And I wanted a Cannibal Temptress novel.
I would enjoy a Cannibal Temptress novel.
I want to read a Cannibal Temptress novel right now, and the fact that I have not been given one,
That is very sad.
it's so sad. Do you know what else I do
I,
like about this book, though?
please.
So, one of the things, I went looking for positive reviews, and I have to say, a lot of people were very, very strongly opinionated on the love triangle.
Hmm. As in, they
Almost
had opinions on who
nobody,
she should get with.
yes, which surprised me because I found both of these men to be equally cardboardy, but whatever. Not a single person was in disagreement about the Cleo being the coolest character, despite the fact she has like 2 pages. I love that. I love that she just shows up, hates everything, fucks off. And every single person who
Iconic.
liked this book that I could find went, yeah, we love her. More of her
Iconic
in the next one,
behavior.
please. I
More,
love that.
more of Cleo, and she has survived the book, so maybe we will get more of Cleo. I think the best thing, apart from I think it's going to provoke a lot of fanfic, that I personally can say about Lightlark is, although I think it is a bad book, badly written, probably am going to end up reading the sequel.
I'm absolutely going to read the sequel. Are you kidding me? I had so much fun reading this book.
I laughed out loud several times. Not usually when the book was trying to be funny.
But also, sometimes it is funny on purpose.
Sometimes it is funny on purpose. Sometimes I'm just like, this is the most farcical description of a seductive 20-year-old I've ever read.
Oh my god, everything about Aistra is so funny because her two main character traits are that she is sheltered and dumb and extremely sexy.
Yeah.
And it's just a very funny combination when she is surrounded by men who are horny.
In a sexy dress. She is constantly soaking wet. Like, I cannot explain to you how many times in this book Isla is dunked in water and ends up soaking wet. It's like 6 or 7 times.
That is where the sexy is stored.
It's right. One time she's caught in the rain, specifically so that she can be, rain soaked and sexy. That is the psychoanalytic thing this book tells us about Alex Astor. Is Alex Astor thinks it is sexy when you're wet.
I mean,
Can't judge on that. Many people have this opinion.
yeah, it makes sense.
It's like having a thing against spiders. It's very common. But I think if we were doing a what does this tell us about the author thing, I think sexy clinging wet dresses is possibly one of Alex Astor's things.
Yeah. I have to say, in a universe where everybody wears modesty capes, though, it is a very, very funny kink to have because it has to be inconvenient.
Yeah. But now I'm imagining them all falling in the water in their modesty cakes and like swimming like manta rays, which is an amazing image.
I
Just a
genuinely,
flock of manta ray cloak swimmers.
I genuinely wholeheartedly recommend this book. If you have listened to this podcast and thought, yeah, that sounds fun, go read it. You might enjoy it. You might not enjoy it, but in entertaining ways.
And it is fairly short. It's a young adult book of not excessive length. It's a small investment.
It's so worth reading because you will go away with so many opinions.
You will have opinions at the end of this. This is not a book that will make no impact on you. You will, in fact, have an emotional reaction to this book. And sometimes that's all you need.
If you believe that the purpose of art is to promote or provoke feeling in the viewer, then this is high art. Because it
Yes.
provoked so many feelings.
If you stand with Plato and you regard the purpose of art to be to open the soul to excellence, this is not the book for you. But if you hold that the purpose of art is to make you feel things, you will. You may not like what you feel, but you will feel.
And I have to say, I quite like sort of, I don't know if there's a real name for the genre, but the kind of Mary Sue on purpose section of teen girl lit. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of books that go in very openly and say, I am a book about a girl who is good at everything and super cool and great things happen to her and only bad things happen to make her sad and sexy. And a very
Right.
on the front
and
page about it.
It's a very important thing to have available to you as a teenage girl.
The one of that
Frankly, as a
like
teenage boy.
Yeah, exactly. And the version of that resonated with me is the Gargoyle Legends series by Heather Fleming, which is very obscure and no one has ever read, but will be going in the hat at some point. And I do think I enjoyed those books so much as a teenager. And when I was reading this, I did find myself kind of transported to how much I enjoyed those books, where the main character is cool and sort of not necessarily good at everything, but bad at things in like ways that show that she's good at other things. Like all of her
Yeah.
flaws are there. She's not completely flat, but they're not flaws that cause real problems because she overcomes everything in the end. And everybody wants to be her or to be with her or to be like her. I think it's just a fun story to have this kind of, no, I'm doing all of this tropey shit on purpose and you're along for the ride.
Yes. This is a book
And
that is wearing its taste on its sleeve.
yeah, and really that's the part of the advertising that I think is doing the job it's intended. Like I said, I have a lot to defend in this book. I have nothing to defend in the advertising of it. I do think it was genuinely very disingenuous. And if I had purchased this book on the basis of it, I would be fuming. But
Yep. On the basis of what the book actually is, it certainly is the thing it is.
it is the thing that it is, and it is the thing that it is on purpose. I don't think Alex Astor set out to write a book different than the one she created. I think she set out to have a rickrolling good time, and she absolutely did.
Yes. and which of us could ask for more from our, massively successful TikTok sensation debut
Exactly.
novels?
I will be reading the sequel, and if they ever get around to making the film, I will be watching it. We both know
I'm just
you will.
looking into the future and I'm like, and Dia's gonna make me watch it.
I will come to your fucking house and make you watch it.
And on that note, thank you for coming to our bonus episode about, our true feelings, of which we have so many about Lightlark, and some of them were good. This
Yeah.
truly is a book that was written and is in the world.
You can go out and get a copy, and I cannot express to you how much you will look at the cover design and think, this has nothing to do with anything in this book.
But you will unquestionably receive a text.
That you will. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
See you next time for some real episodes instead of whatever this nonsense was.
Oh, this nonsense was everything.
That's great. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Analysis Roulette, a podcast applying a randomly selected mode of analysis to a randomly selected creative work, just to see what happens. Your hosts have been Dia and Duck. You can find us on Spotify or on YouTube, and if you'd like to get in touch, you can send us an email at analysisroulette@gmail.com. And remember, if you like our show, share it with your friends, and if you don't like our show, share it with your enemies.